conversation.
Perfect.
Oh, beautiful.
Actually, this is Gordon, by the way, jumping in. Good to meet you. I'm on phone, so I don't see everybody necessarily, but that topic's perfect. And GD, that's basically what was the main focus of the presentation I did last night. Was really around looking at, that your career is how your career can be a catalyst for your own growth, as well as your own growth can be a catalyst for your career, and understanding the relationship between those two. So, yeah, I can talk a bit to that too, to kind of set some context.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Cool. Let me check in with Jane here. Jane, are we all set?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I say we go ahead and go live.
Okay.
Hey.
Let's hit it.
Go live now.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jane. Thank you so much for all that you are doing behind the scenes with us and facilitating people's questions and comments and making sure that Dr. Medlock and I get those. We will be getting started officially in a few minutes yet, but I like to get LinkedIn Live rolling here. So this is Career Lab Wednesday. We are here every Wednesday from noon till 1 p.m. Central. And there's a few ways that you're able to engage with us. We love it when you come on Zoom. There's a Zoom link that you can find in the event. In that way, you're able to listen in directly. And if you want, you can get direct one-to-one coaching with Dr. Medlock and myself. And we've got Dr. Medlock with us today, who may be a little spotty on the internet there down in, I forget the city that you're in, but down in Mexico. But we are going to be talking about career and how that applies to your life, how that applies to your overall life satisfaction and the intermingling of your life's purpose, life satisfaction, and how career helps you develop as a person, and how that can bring greater joy to you overall. Because one of the studies that came out about what really makes people happy, because we all have these ideas of, money, houses, relationships, all kinds of things. There's those things do bring joy in moments. But if you look at what makes people really happy, it is learning and growing. And that's a little bit of a conundrum, because part of learning and growing means that we are often failing and making mistakes, and that we're not always, it's not always a happy, haha, joyful kind of experience, but that being challenged is a part of what actually makes us happy. So we can always, I think in work, in career, it's a playground of challenge. And a lot of people will reach out sometimes and say, hey, I'm bored at my job. I kind of got this down, and I'm thinking about doing something else. So that happens with people in their career. So it's not just having everything all set. So we are just a minute away from noon, so we will be getting started officially shortly. And I do want to name Dr. Gordon Medlock. Thank you so much for being with us today. Dr. Medlock had an event last night where he really dug into the relationship between your personal growth and your career. And Dr. Medlock, would you be able to speak just a little bit as we're getting started here today to what you were sharing last night in your presentation?
I would be happy to. First of all, let me just let people know I just turned off my video because I'm not sure of my bandwidth here. I'm calling from the Mexico office of our our group here. So
understood.
I apologize for some network issues that may come up. But yes, I'd love to talk about that, because really what we're looking at, I think what's unusual about the way we view we view the career development and personal development, and we call it the SEI advantage, the social and emotional intelligence advantage, is that we view our personal growth as a vehicle for our career development. In other words, working on ourselves, becoming more effective, more fully ourselves, learning the skills of how to be present with others and ourselves, being able to make conscious choices in highly emotionally charged situations. All of this is a really important part of our own personal work, but it translates into really effective work in your career. When you're in situations of kind of high stakes, where you're in meetings and you've got to make decisions on the spot, you've got to read your audience, you've got to make sure your relationships are clear. All of the kind of stuff that goes on in the relationship dimension of our careers is focused there. So as you're working those kinds of situations, you are developing yourself as the biggest and more effective person. And you're also, so your career is an effective catalyst of your own personal growth. And the work you're doing in your personal work makes you better equipped to handle those situations. So whether it's a job interview, a meeting with your boss, a critical meeting with a client, running a project and dealing with a conflict, all of those kinds of situations. And I'm sure many of you have your own versions of that. I think that's our main topic today, to support you around understanding how to work those two things and what it takes to be able to do that.
Dr. Medlock, thank you so much for that introduction.
Sure.
So the way that we function in this career lab is we have our topic, which is about your potential, your development in your career. And that's great today because that is a very broad topic. So we want to open up the floor to everybody who's joined in to ask, how can we serve you today? What do you have going on in your current job, in your career, in your job search, and anything career related? We are opening up the floor to your questions. Hello, Dana. Good to see you. Dana, do you have an update for us?
Yeah, I do. So I guess the question I have, so I just finished up today with a third round final interview with a company. Yeah, that I really like. My concern with the company is that they did just notify me that some of the work is going to be like not a typical 9 to 5 over 50 hours a week, for not the ideal compensation that I would like for working that much. In my last job that I had left, and a lot of the reason I had left was that I felt overworked and shamed for taking breaks or personal time. And I'm a little afraid that I might get back into that same situation if I'm working extremely long hours again. And then and so I'm still really interested in the company. I loved everybody I've talked to so far and the culture and everything. That was my only made me kind of think about it for a second. And then I am really interested in another company that just reached out to me to do, but I'm just in the early stages, just had a recruiter call with them. And so now I'm at a point where I'm like, I could potentially get an offer from this company. And then, but I'm interested in this other one, but I'm still in the early stages with this other one. So how do I balance and figure out, and the company that I'm in the early stages with knows that I'm in the later stages with this other company.
Cool. So Dana, it's really good. So I have a question for you right off.
Yeah.
If you were confident that you could negotiate your boundaries around workload and timing and managing that effectively, if you were confident you could handle that, would this be a job that you would want right away, that you say, yep, this is what I'm looking for?
Yes.
Okay. So this is a perfect one for our topic today, Georgetown, because part of that, so they're opening up the question of, you may need to do, you're definitely going to need to do more than 40 hours? Is that the idea?
Yeah, definitely going to need to do more than 40. Yes.
Yeah. But have they set any parameters on that or not?
They did. Yeah. They said about, it's normally on average 50 to 55.
Okay. And how does that sit with you?
I mean, I'm used to doing that. I was doing that at my prior job, so it's not like my ability to do that. I know I would be more than happy to do it as long as I was assured that I could, that I won't be given like passive. So my previous job, I had, a lot of PTO, but every time I took it, I was met with passive aggressive comments about the fact that I was taking PTO, even though I was overworking all the time. And I'm afraid to fall back into that type of situation where you're doing this amount of work for us. And, you knew when you accepted this job that it was going to be, 50 to 55 hours a week. And then if I need to take, a PTO day here and there to just kind of recharge from that, I just want to make sure that I'm, that's been like, yeah, absolutely. Take your PTO day,
Good. So you're going to be clear about how it gets handled. I also want to say they're like focusing on this hours issue, right? They're making a big deal of it.
Yes.
So
yeah.
My sense about this for you is you want to say, I get you're really focusing on the hours here. And, frankly, that's typically what I've worked anyway, but I'm more interested in hearing what are the outcomes you want from the job? What are the things you want us to accomplish? And if we happen to accomplish it in less time, is that a problem? So you start shifting the conversation, not around hours, but around what are the outcomes and what's required and what's going to be needed to do it. And I'm assuming we can manage and we'll have the autonomy to manage our time to do that as effectively as possible. And, I just want to get an understanding that matters to you guys, is that where we're headed here? And I guess not to put it as a challenge, but really be in the inquiry with them to explore what the outcomes are that they're expecting from the job, and you focusing on your ability to do that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Then the personal question I have for you is, how do you do with self-care for yourself in a high pressure kind of, heavy responsibility kind of job like this? What do you do how good are you at taking care of yourself?
I would say sometimes I have a hard time standing up for myself or setting boundaries, for sure. That I have a hard time. I definitely have a tendency to historically put other people's needs ahead of my own, for sure.
You got it. So that's the burnout scenario, right?
Right.
That's the danger. So this is going to be an opportunity for you to prioritize your well-being and being in good shape and enjoying a full life as part of the equation, and not sacrificing yourself to the company.
Yeah.
And that's your
Absolutely.
internal work, and that's your personal work. And part of the art of this, it's like, it's not their job to kind of make sure you take care of yourself, right? This is your own personal agenda of how you do that. What you want to do is to have a clear commitment to your own well-being, so that comes through in your way of engaging in these decisions as they come up. Like if you're taking some time off to do something, or you've already accomplished the objectives for the week and you're like to take a day off, or want to, leave a little early someday. The bigger conversation is, are you handling what's needed? Are you delivering what's expected? And are you doing it in relationship with everybody? If you're doing that, the time issue should fade more to the background.
Okay.
And then you prioritize the time you need to take care of yourself.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So what I recommend is that in your next meeting, you go into that with the intention to really talk about what the expectations are in terms of results, and your interest in doing that, and managing the time commitments in a way that work for that, so that becomes not the preoccupation, but the actual results are what matter.
Okay.
Are you comfortable with that?
I'm nervous about it, but I definitely think I can do it. Yeah.
I mean, it does put responsibility on you, right?
Right. Yeah.
So, but your own self-care is critical in this kind of environment, because you're right.
Yes.
And also, I would interview other people in the culture to see what their experience is around this issue, because if it's a culture that really does not respect employee well-being at some level, it's just kind of burning people out, that would be a red flag. It's not the right place.
Yeah.
Totally. This is so cool. I want to kind of tie things together. We have many more people joining in here. So the overarching thing that we're looking at here is, how is your career a vessel for your personal development? And we were talking about happiness before the meeting even started. And one of the things that research has shown is that it's actually learning and growing. So our continued development that makes us happy. It's not the money. It's not all, those are nice perks, but that deep sense of satisfaction is our continued learning and growing. And so Dr. Medlock was sharing about how our career is this pathway for us to really be developing ourselves. And then Dana, this is awesome because you're looking at career opportunities. Now, from a while ago, it was, oh, shoot, like I need to be getting a job. Now you're at the point where you've been developing yourself just in this job hunt process where now you're getting multiple opportunities. So you're already, you're in this developmental process using just the job search as that. Now we're looking at this next phase of you taking care of yourself. This is I think, the term that was thrown around a lot last year of radical self-care.
Yeah.
And I'm reading Phil Jackson books right now, and he's talking about compassion as the number one element for his teams and for individuals. And so I think there's a self-compassion that we're getting to, and you being responsible for that and communicating that clearly. And that may be a thing at the organization, is that maybe they don't foster that. And maybe that could even be a conversation that you're having with people of, look, we all love this work. We love the company. And if there is this burnout stuff, how about we have open conversations about that and really address it? So you can be an agent of transformation wherever you are at any point, and especially when you're first starting at a company. That is a moments of transition are so valuable.
Yeah.
So you may dig in a little bit with this, Dana, in talking to people, saying like, hey, I assume we both want, my success. We want me to do well here.
Right.
This is what I know about me, and these are kind of I'm working on making sure that I'm in good shape, and so I want to know what my touch points are and who do I go to, and just and that way you're actually relieving anxiety for them in claiming what you need to be in good shape, and then taking responsibility for making sure that you're doing those things.
Right.
But,
I love that, George. Now that is great that you're actually opening up the conversation. You might even ask, is there burnout issues in the company right now?
Yeah.
Are people flourishing and feeling satisfied, or are they ending up presenting the job after 6 months because they just aren't getting the fulfillment they want? So find ways to ask those questions that aren't too threatening, but you really want to just explore how is the culture here in terms of supporting well-being and making sure everybody's in good shape. It's something I believe in personally, you could say, and would love to be part of that. Part of ensuring that in the culture is something that I really think is important. And I'd just like to hear your thoughts about it. So you get them involved in the conversation, you're becoming a transformational agent at that point. And and if their responses are really unsupportive, that's good data. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Cool. Well, I definitely want to hear how you do with this. We want to hear. Okay. This is one I think everybody on the call needs to hear how Dana does with this one.
Okay. So. All right. Sounds good.
Okay. Into the breach. Okay.
Yeah. And there. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, good luck with that.
Thank you.
Keep us included. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, welcome everybody. We've got more folks joining on. This is Career Lab Wednesday. We are here every Wednesday, noon to 1 p.m. We're talking about how your career is a vehicle for your personal development, for your satisfaction in life overall. And just had a fantastic conversation with Dana. So with that, I want to open up the floor to everybody who is on Zoom. You can come off mute and let us know your questions. You can type them into the chat. If you're not on Zoom with us and you're watching through LinkedIn, you can type your questions into the comment section, and my lovely assistant, Jane Coletto, will get those questions over to Dr. Medlock and myself, and we'll do our best to get to those. So what questions do you have? How can we support you today?
I have a question. This is James.
James, welcome.
Hey, James. Okay, good
How's
to hear your
everyone?
voice.
Good to hear all of you as well.
Yeah.
I was curious, and I'm wondering whether this question was just addressed with the previous person, but I want more out of my career and my experience. I don't know where to go though. And I don't, I want to move up. I want to have more responsibility. And I know that there are other perks like pay and other things that will come with that, but having more responsibility is what I want. I don't have a lot of skills right now, and I'm not in a position where I'm getting those skills. And when I think about what I would want to do, I have the fear of what happens if I get into a field that I don't like. What am I going to do then? Because I'm invested into developing myself to get into a field, and then I don't like it. So what happens next? I guess I want to know what's on the other side. I know there's no way of being able to say so. But what do I do,
James? Yeah.
forward?
So James, this is Gordon. So good to see you. I'm on not on video right now, but let me take that question. Okay.
Certainly.
So first of all, you've got some homework to do on your side. It's very hard for the employer or the person you're interviewing with to answer those questions. You need to do some searching yourself of what is the niche or what is the area that you particularly are interested in developing. Because the more you manage your own career and know where you're going, you empower other people to help you get there. But if you don't know where you're going and you're asking them, where are you going? That conversation is not going to work. So you've got some personal work to do before you get into the deep process of what's the next job, is for you to explore what are the areas you're looking at. And one of the ways that we invite people to do that is what we call informational interviewing. Talk to people in different careers that you know, people in your network, people at Wright, people among your friends. You can also just, well, I can say more about how to expand your network, but the first thing you want to do is just talk to people about what they're doing and learn about the different jobs that are out there and which ones that interest you. And people love, by the way, to talk about their work. You know, when they come home at night, their boyfriend or girlfriend or spouse doesn't want to hear all the details about their job. You know, they've got their own things going on. But if you talk to somebody who says, I want to understand what your work is because I'm considering this as a career direction, I'd like to learn more about your experience. And you've actually got some interview questions to ask them to learn more about it. You're going to start developing a direction for yourself out of this process. It's the wonders of intentional networking, in your case, focused on getting clear about your career direction. So that's the preliminary part of this. And some of those interviews, at each of those interviews, the ones that you get excited about, oh, that sounds like an interesting job, ask them for a couple other names you can talk to. And pretty soon out of that process, you're going to have enough focus to decide, okay, here's some positions I want to apply for right now in the areas. And you'll have something to say about why that area is of interest to you. So you will be doing more of your side of the equation to empower them to help you and decide whether you're the right fit. So let me just hear your response to that. How does that sit for you right now?
It's, well, it sounds like I'm going to have to do some research and also do some more talking and interacting with other people.
You got it.
It opens another question, is how to build a network. And I don't want to hog the time up, but
that's a great question. That's a question that everybody's going to have on their mind. And that's part of our own personal growth work too. How do we create our own networks? Because it's not just a one time to find a job, it's how you do that throughout your career. So that's a very good question. And we can certainly explore that too. So I know you've done some work at Wright. I know you've been involved in a number of programs.
yes.
You got a network right there to start. You got a lot of people who've done a lot of work in a lot of different areas you might be interested in learning about. So start asking around, making some calls. Those morning calls when you're getting ready to envision your day, talk about this. Who do people know that you might talk to? What are you thinking about, what you might be interested in? That sort of thing.
Got it. Okay.
James, can I say a few things?
You're welcome to do that. Yes.
Well, so the job that you currently have is as I understand it, it's a stable job. There's a great deal of stability. You work with the city, yeah?
The county.
With the county, okay. So you work with the county, and so there's a level of stability there. And then it's also, as I understand it, with a lot of jobs with the state, county, city, sometimes it takes longer to move up. And so, you know, if you're looking at going into a whole different path or a different organization, what you want to be doing where you're at right now is doing the best possible job that you can. And really doing whatever it would take for you to move up right where you're at. While then also looking for jobs in other places. Because the tendency that a lot of us have is that we'll begin backing off of a current position if we're already kind of looking for a way out of it, and we'll just kind of unconsciously create that. And so what happens then is it makes the transition a lot more challenging and less meaningful. And it's a better approach to just do your best. And so I'm going to tie this back to some of the fundamental things that the Right Foundation uses, which is, Robin, we'll want to hear from you in a second, but we focus on our yearning, our deep yearnings. You have a yearning to learn and grow, James. We all do. And then the next phase is engaging. And that's what Dr. Medlock's talking about, is it having all of those conversations with people, and then also doing that in the current position that you're at, is looking for the ways to engage that you haven't. And we coached for a year, James, so I know the ways that you were applying assignments and doing things differently right where you were at. And the ways that you were beginning to learn there. Hello, Chrissy, welcome. But I'm wanting to share that for everybody, that we look at how important that engagement is, having conversations with people at any point in your career, whether you're in a transition, whether you're just wanting more in the position that you're currently at, and it's getting outside of your comfort zone, having those conversations, that is so important.
So James, I'd like to hear your response to that. I think that's a really important thing that George Donald has just said, and also how you're doing to make your own job meaningful right now. So could you just comment on that?
Certainly, that is something that I can definitely take on and be on the lookout for opportunities to talk to people and just ask them a question or two and see if I can get into someone's network or anything that I can do. Don't just be quiet, but open my mouth, say something, because there are people that I'm at Wright, I'm at other organizations, and I could get on a Zoom thing a little early and ask someone, what's it like being a this, or what's it like doing that, and just do a quick interview.
Yeah, very good.
And did you see Robin Serber's comment here, James? You may want to connect with her about this. She's relating to you 10 years for a county.
Okay. Got it.
Cool. Well, keep us updated, James. It's great to see you here.
It's great to be here, and it's great to see all of you.
Great.
Well, Chrissy, it is such a delight to have you here. I know you've been up to a bunch in your career. So for everybody, we open the floor to all career-related questions. Your career is your pathway, a pathway for you to achieve your potential, to meet your deep yearnings, to learn and grow. And Chrissy, I would love to hear from you if you are available to just share about what's going on and what you'd like support with.
Well, thank you for the invitation. Excuse my shower hair. Um, so yeah, I'm transitioning to a new job, and it's interesting right now as I'm leaving my current job. My executive director doesn't seem to be interested in succession planning. So I don't want to see my work fall to the wayside in my departure. So I'm trying to influence him. I'm working on setting some parameters on what I think needs to happen on my way out. And I'm going to push that his way and try to influence him a little bit on my way out to step up and delegate.
Cool.
Fantastic. And is this a new area of you tapping into your personal power and ability to influence?
It is. Yeah, I've been really working this year on managing up. It's a very difficult, delicate type of power to express, in my opinion.
Well, let me just suggest one of the things on this that's really important is you want to, as you've got ideas that you'd like to see implemented, you want to make sure that you can somehow find the way in which your manager or your boss is already aligned with those ideas in some way. There must be some overlap, otherwise you wouldn't have been doing them. And the more he gets or she gets that, oh, this is a great idea, like it's already kind of her idea or his idea. Is it he or she? So,
He.
yeah. So, you know, that this is something that he wants, that he's committed to as well, and helping support him in accomplishing his vision. And you're putting it more in that way, and not only just what your legacy is, but also how it's going to enhance what he wants to see accomplished in his organization. That's going to create the alignment that'll give you more leverage in the influence you want to have. So just that rapport factor of connecting with where the overlap is and where it's going to get traction, and have him and listen to him about what he sees about what you've been doing that he's invested in wanting to see continue, so that you end up finding where the traction is that you're likely to have success in what you want to do.
Thank you.
Yeah. The other thing I just want to say is the first 6 months of your next job are the most important you're going to do. The first impressions and everything else. So just be also bringing your full self to that, bringing your creativity, bringing your engagement. And, you know, it's very interesting. First impressions are so strong in people. And so, you know, getting to know people, getting into relationship with who's around and what's going on, all of that is good personal work for you. And it's going to make your job a lot more nourishing too. So,
yeah, and I have the unique circumstance where I already know half the people I'm going to be working with because
That's good.
The overlap between my current job and my new
Awesome.
job, they overlap. So it's kind of exciting.
So, and
Cool.
Chrissy, are you able to, in that, because you've had working relationships with them, correct?
Yes.
How personal have they been?
Not as personal as, not very personal. Yeah, no, it's been very surface level.
So one of the things that really stuck out to me, and I've shared this, but it's probably been a few months, the research that happened back when the internet was a newer thing and global companies were like, oh my goodness, we don't have to fly. We might not have to fly people around as much. So we could run a company basically through emails. And so they're like, all right, let's get this set up and let's get our best people on this project. All right, launch it. And it fucking fell flat on its face. It did not work. And they did years and years of research about why, with Daniel Goleman, who kind of coined the term social emotional intelligence. What they found was that we need a template in order to make decisions. We need to be able to understand and have a deep sense of somebody else in order for us to even make a decision. So if I'm just getting an email and I don't know the person who's attached to that email, I just kind of go into like, I don't know what to do. So just nothing was getting done. So they found that the most effective way to have, you know, global companies, global projects work was to fly everybody to one location and to bring their families together if possible, and that they're not allowed to talk about business. All they're allowed to do is talk about personal stuff. So as you're going into this new thing, if you're able to set up coffees, walks, lunches, whatever, that's like your assignment for the first 2 weeks is to have as many one-to-ones as possible and to not fucking talk about the job on it. Just who is this person? Who are they? What do they care about? And it's going to be nourishing for you and for them, and it will tee up everything else to flow better.
Yeah, I really like that. We have the opportunity where my new office is. There's actually a natural city park, a natural park, like a hiking area. And people often go
Perfect.
hiking on their lunch breaks.
Oh
So,
my goodness.
I'll be
Well,
on my
I'm
list.
so excited for you. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Good luck with that. Keep us informed on how both ends go, the transition out and the transition in. Those transitions are so important in career development, and you want to leave the best possible feelings from your last place and hit the ground running on the other. So I'd love to hear how that gets managed. If you can circle back as you make this transition, we'd appreciate it.
Thank you. Definitely.
Thank you.
Well, so this is Career Lab Wednesday. We're here every Wednesday, noon to 1 p.m. Central. And we want to open up the floor to all questions. Anything career related that you have going on, how can we support you today?
I have another question if no one else has one.
Go for it, James.
So I mentioned to you before that I want to go into management, but I'm not in a position where I'm doing anything that lends itself to developing managerial skills. I was wondering how I could go about developing those skills in such a way that I could sell it to a prospective employer. And not just management skills, but teamwork skills. That's one of the things that showed up.
So James, we've got something called the 5 hats of management. And all managers wear a number of hats. One of the hats they wear is being facilitators of team effectiveness. Are you on any teams yourself?
Yes, I guess I can consider that being what
Great.
I'm doing.
So-
on a team, yes.
So how are you doing as being a team facilitator to elevate the functioning of that team as a team? How's that going?
I'm putting the team together, so I haven't done much with that. I could probably be more proactive. Not
There you
probably.
go.
I would like to be more proactive and more. I'm not
So
being as
actually,
effective as I could be.
yeah. This is a great opportunity for you to use your current situation to build the skill set you want. To be able to put together a team, build the relationships along the way that George Donald was talking about, really understand who are the people, understand what their talents, what their abilities are, how to get the right mix of people in the right places in the team and the right communication patterns going, and focusing on developing people as effective team players in their contribution. You're doing management work as you do that. And you can do that from the position of an individual contributor. You don't have to have the title of manager to be doing that. And that becomes a story that you can then share in your next job interview about how you've been developing these managerial skills in your current work, because that's really your career path, but you're already doing it. Okay, you got that?
Got it.
So there's one other hat I'll mention about managers. It's become.
Oh, I think we lost you, Gordon. So we will have to wait on that one other hat.
Oh,
More
no.
common. Managers wear the coaching hat. Oh, you can't hear
Dr.
me?
Medlock, we missed you for about 10 seconds.
Have you got me now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you. You said one other
Okay.
hat.
One other hat. I just wanted to hold the suspense for a little bit. Okay, good. So one other hat is the coaching hat. Managers function as coaches now more and more. And so while you're building your team, you may also look at where you see people that you could support in doing things better or communicating more effectively. Some of the social, emotional, and relationship skills. So you can decide to do that, but there's an important piece of that. You don't just go in and coach people. you have to get a contract with them around that. So you might say, you know, I noticed some things as we're working as a team. I'd like to give you some feedback on that. Would that be okay? So you begin to establish a feedback culture where you get permission to do it, and they give you permission to give them the feedback. So you're not imposing your coaching, but you're becoming available as a person who helps people get better at what they want to do. And so there's two hats you can be wearing: your team building hat and your coaching hat, and really helping people grow on the job. And boy, if you do that well, you're going to be in good shape to look for the next job, because people will be impressed at somebody who's taken that kind of initiative in their current job.
All right. I'm writing
So
some of this down.
how does that sit with you as a focus for you right now?
It sounds like these are skills that certainly I could work on developing, and I'm excited about it. What I see is a two-way street. One is the coaching and the team building exercises, not exercises, but the doing coaching and team building. The other is getting coaching on doing coaching.
Exactly.
And team building.
Exactly.
So,
And guess what? You'll be learning as you coach others. You're going to be learning, and bring that into your own personal work. So here's where you getting better at the job is also part of your own personal growth and development. So that's exactly our theme today too. So thank you for that, James. It's a really good experience for people who want to make the kinds of moves you're making. It's a very common move to want to move from some people are really wanting to be managers, and they have a hunger and aptitude for that. So thank you for sharing, and we'll probably hear what else is going on for other people around that too. So thank you.
thank you.
Fantastic. Well, Tyrone,
Oh, can you hear me?
we can hear you. What's going on?
Oh, thank you, thank you. Amazing, man. I said amazing. Spectacular. Thanks for including me on the questionnaire. I made a call yesterday to a lady that works in the IT department, because I work for the city of Kansas. Well, I work for the city, and her and her IT department, they usually fix problems that I have as far as PeopleSoft resets and passwords. And well, I've talked to her for, extended number of times. When I've had issues, and Lord behold, I told her I had an interview on just last week with some guys, and that she works along with, including the guys that interviewed me, and one of them is her boss. And something just told me to call her, and it really helped me because she gave me even more clarity about the position. Even she said, just they're going to give you assignments to do, and she said just basically do it. That's just
Great.
I told her about the interview. The interview was fantastic, and she said, I'm really glad for you, and she just let me know, like, hey, I'm going to be sending up prayers for you. I'm like, oh wow. I've talked to her. Well, it's fascinating, because whenever I did talk to her, it was over, like I said, issues that I had with my work computer, getting on my Microsoft Outlook.
So Tyrone, it sounds like things are moving along.
It is, and
Great.
even doing an interview, I didn't tell her. Well, I didn't tell her.
And Tyrone, I want to know, is there anything that you want support with? Any questions you have today?
Well, thank you. Oh, you're a genius. You're a genius.
Thank you.
Because I remember one of the recruiters, the main recruiter, he did advise, and I tried to write everything down for I try to write everything down, that whatever information they give. But I remember he did advise me about the kind of culture that they have, and for some reason I didn't write it down.
Well, so
But
what do you, so you want to know what the culture is?
right, right. And he did explain it.
So how
He just,
would you find that out?
I was thinking about possibly just calling him up and just say, hey, I just want to just kind of, I just had one more question about the interview because it's really like that question is stuck on my mind right now, and I really
And so he told you about the culture, but you don't remember?
I don't yeah and and
Can
then he
you
just
the feelings in your body right now, in as you reflect back on that conversation, can you feel any feelings in your heart, in your stomach?
can I feel any oh, that's a good question. Just curiosity because it was just one word that he said, and for
I
some
have a
reason,
hunch. Can I check it out with you?
yes,
I suspect you either felt you probably felt a combination of joy and fear together
yes,
with
yes,
what you said about the culture,
yes,
and it sounds like
yes.
that's really important to you.
It is. And it's. I mean,
And
I'm more of a laid back person, but I understand in the IT environment, it's IT can be rather fast paced, which I don't mind because I've done it before.
you've done it
Uh,
before, but I suspect that there's a fear that you're not going to be able to handle it.
somewhat, yeah, I would say
I mean, I have
somewhat.
that fear like right now as I'm talking to you. I have the fear of not being able to handle stuff like a lot.
Right,
You
right.
know, so
Yes,
I
yes,
suspect that there's a yearning for security, and that in that moment, that whatever he said, that you kind of left yourself, and you
right,
didn't, it was a spot where paying attention wasn't gonna be happening anymore.
right, right, right.
And so from
And I
this space right now, as we're talking about it, can you recall any more of what he said?
he just said this is I guess extravagant. I'm still trying to find the right word, but he said this is a blank culture. And like you said, I was feeling pretty anxious. I love where the interview was going. I was making them laugh because my theme is well my I try in it I always try to do in an interview make them laugh so they can get their worries off or whatever because they have 5 or 10 things going on
So
at the same time.
Tyrone, you are an incredibly good-willed man, and you're like, you're aware. My hunch is that if you were in a room and somebody on the other side of the room had their feelings hurt, you'd probably pick up on it. You'd probably
Oh,
know.
oh yes, oh yes, oh yes.
So you probably have like a bank vault of goodwill that people have towards you, because they just know what a decent guy you are, and you're very team oriented. And I think this is
Right,
probably tying
right,
back, Dana, to our conversation about 20-30 minutes ago around that self-compassion, around you having compassion for yourself. So whatever makes the most sense for you to go back and just say, hey, I'm wanting to learn some more about this and the culture, who can I talk to? But
right,
while you're doing it, if you're able to have a little more care for yourself in there, and tend to those worries and fears out of us in a self-respecting way, I think it's all viable. But
right.
company culture is a huge topic for, there's a lot of vulnerability there. So I think that's a way to kind of go forward with it, and to see, you know, what you could do there. And then in terms of your personal development, your career being a vehicle for that, how do you see this fitting in? in this next conversation you're having, as well as the kind of self-care in it.
Oh, you truly just touched on a good subject, self-care. Because like it kind of goes back with what you mentioned too earlier about taking care of yourself. And I'm mindful. The team that I've been blessed to be on a lot of good teams, and my thought process is, I'm glad you asked that question, and that's my character. And I mentioned that in the interview as well. I'm very supportive and caring individual, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because that is my character. Because not only do I care about the project that's going on, but how's everyone coming along in the project? How's your day going? What are some of the things that might be affecting your work or my? Sometimes I have to ask myself a question: What are some of the things that could be affecting my work at times?
So Tyrone, this is Gordon. I'd like to ask one other question to kind of set some context here for this too. Is
okay.
In the process now, are you at the point where you're going to be offered a job? Are you at the beginning part of this process, or where are you in terms of the objective of actually getting yourself hired into this new position?
Well, believe it or not, we even discussed about the salary.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you're at the point where you're talking about you're very likely to get an offer. Is that
right.
correct?
And yes, and check this out. They didn't know. It's kind of weird because, well, the main recruiter, I don't know if it passed under the radar, but he didn't know that I was already a city employee. And once I mentioned it to him that I was already a city employee, he said, "Oh, I didn't." Okay, he said that kind of slipped by me. Well, the pay will be different, but it's still going to be substantially more than what you're making now. And this is what else he said. He said, "Now we do have a clause that if it doesn't work out in 6 months, then you're still able to go back to your former position." And that's what he said. And now when he said that, it just kind of made me think to myself. I had to ask myself, well, do they really have, 100% confidence? I mean, how much? I mean, but it's good to know that. I mean, what he said, if it doesn't work out, but my main goal is, and my thought process is, this is going to work out.
Yeah. Well, and let me just say that I think and I know we got to jump because we're running short of time here, but but I just want to say that you've got the interpersonal piece down. I think George Donald has really identified that. Your goodwill, you're wanting to serve the community, serve your team members and your clients. You've got that. I think the question is this technical skill area of the job, and are you able to do all the pieces, or are you able to learn those pieces that you don't know and open to that? And are they open to seeing you develop and grow in that? That's probably the area that they're wondering about. And I think for you to have some really clear answers about your competence in those areas and your willingness to learn, that's the piece we've been emphasizing today. Right. That if there are areas where you're not as strong, to talk about the ways you've already been a good learner, in the ways that you're invested in learning and growing, and that you'd like to, and you see it, this is a good fit for you. You want to keep making that case clear, so that that part is the questions they might have around the delivery of the service that you need to provide, that they're confident about that. That's going to be really important. So, but it sounds like you've got a number of things to look at. I want to hear how this goes. It sounds like you're close to an offer. So let us know how it goes and what you've learned about the process as you take it to the next step. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. And I did answer 2 out of the 4 technical questions that they did have. They loved it.
Good. That's what you want to go to. Absolutely. Okay. Well,
Nice
thank you.
going, Tyrone.
Okay.
Yes. Say that again.
I said, nice going. And
thank you.
Yeah. Keep us up to date.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, do a quick room reset. We are going to be wrapping up here shortly. But this is Career Lab Wednesday. We're here every Wednesday, noon to 1 p.m. Central. And we invite all career-related questions. I do want to name that next week we are going to be having a recruiter joining us. The previous week we had a bunch of questions and things come up around how to work with a recruiter. And so we thought we'd bring somebody on and would love your thoughts and questions about that. Know that will be available next week. But before we wrap up today, I want to check and see if anybody else has any questions, anything that you're working on that you'd like support with in your career. It seems like perhaps not.
Well, and you might
Okay.
also look at what might have gotten stirred up for you, or thoughts you might have had given what you've heard today, that you'd like to add reflections on. So, a lot of times when we've got people sharing, there's something we call co-voyaging, where their work sort of helps you think differently about your how you relate to that. So that helps to enrich the conversation and support the whole group today as well. So if you
I
have
did
thoughts
have a
on that
question.
level too.
I'm
Okay.
sorry. Yeah, quick
Go right
question.
ahead.
Yeah, I just came in on like 10 after the hour, but I just caught about self-care.
Mhm.
You guys mentioned about self-care. If you can kind of collaborate on what you've spoken about earlier about self-care, it seemed like outside of.
Yeah, what we were talking about was an earlier person who was talking about that her company was expecting her to work a lot of hours, and we wanted to make sure that she also had the focus on her own self-care so that she could
Right.
take good care of herself, and that was an important part of the culture. So
Right.
self-care is really about that we're in good shape every day. We're feeling healthy. We're feeling like we've taken care of ourselves physically. We're
Right.
feeling good about ourselves. The tending to our own well-being is a skill that each of us is responsible for. The company's not going to know what to do about that. It's really going to be about you creating that space for you, and then communicating how that value is something that you want to see as part of the culture of your company too.
Right.
That sometimes, so that was really the focus on it. But the whole study of self-care and how you learn to nourish yourself even on the job, which you're, I think, pretty good at doing actually at that level. You seem to get a lot of enjoyment for what you're doing, which is part of self-care. But it's really tending to yourself so that we talk about literally the personal growth side of this is building an internal parent who knows how to take care of yourself emotionally when you're upset, when you self, that sort of thing. So it's really a whole process and we have many programs also to help people look at how to do that more effectively. So maybe we could talk about some of those, George Donald, if that would be helpful.
Absolutely. I was just thinking of, and Robin, I'd love for you to jump in here in just a moment. But I was looking for the quote by the Good Fight quote, where, and maybe wrapping up today's time with that. But at the end of that, it says something like, we must be diligent in our fight, in our self-care or our self-compassion, and we must weed out any self-abuse in order for us to keep fighting the good fight. And I think, what I'm relating to a lot is just the self-compassion when things are challenging, and not turning it in on myself, but being kind and graceful towards myself. And I'll see if I can find that quote. But
Oh yes.
so that might help a little bit. But we do one of the trainings that we offer is the More Life training. It's a Friday evening and all day Saturday, and it's a deep dive into kind of well-being and emotional intelligence. And of people who I work with, 90% of them, when they take this, I just see a spike up in their overall satisfaction and effectiveness in their careers. So that is March 18th and 19th. Would love to have you there. And then we'll also have another, Dr. Medlock's going to be doing another talk about purpose and career on March 1st. So we'll make sure that we're sharing that as well in the upcoming weeks. And with that, I want to check in. And Robin, are you available?
Yes, I am. First of all, can I say I highly recommend the More Life training. It's amazing. It's life-changing. You will absolutely not regret any second of it. But I wanted to say that I'm co-voyaging with James because I worked for 10 years in county government. And when it came time to leave, there was all the fears of like, what if I find a fly-by-night company and I'm only working for a week and I've lost all my security and you know, what if my skills don't translate and what am I going to do? So I reached out to my network and I knew somebody that was working in Chicago and I said, how did you get that job? She referred me to a really, really good recruiter who remember my crappy resume?
Yeah.
Took my crappy resume and I went in there the whole time thinking like, okay, I was a court administrator. I was a clerk that, you know, they're not going to have any place for me in Chicago. But she took that resume and I had 2 interviews and I got a job in intellectual property as a legal assistant, making way more than what I was making in county government. And I was totally in shock until I started watching these career labs and I realized that she took my crappy resume and gleaned all my skills and translated them into the private sector and found a job for me. So I would recommend to you, James, in addition to your network, find yourself a good recruiter. She told me about the company. She told me about their history. She told me that they ran 5Ks together. She told me questions to ask during the interview. She was amazing. So I would also, when you're reaching out to your network, ask about recruiters' recommendations and stuff like that, because you'll be amazed at how much translates that you don't expect will.
Robin, that's awesome.
Real, that is
That is-
stupendous.
That's good. That's good.
That is one of the
Yeah.
biggest concerns I had of what will translate over. And yeah, that's great.
And you don't really know. I know you were talking about leadership. What looks like leadership in the county doesn't always look like leadership in the public sector, where I'm saying like the county doesn't recognize it as leadership. The public sector does. So, or the private sector, I'm sorry. So get that resume together and get it to a recruiter who's going to like look at it and see what you can do, because you're going to be amazed that you're doing a lot more than you think.
Okay.
This is
That's
awesome.
great. Thank you so much. I also want to just mention that we've talked about the More Life training. I also want to mention that is at no cost. It is our introductory program for people to learn about what we do. And it's a tremendous opportunity for anyone who might want to kind of get into more deeply about what we mean by self-care and some of the ways we're talking about it. So, but thank you so much, Robin, for your advice and perspective on that translation from the public to the private sphere. Very, very helpful, and using of recruiters. So, okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody for joining in today. And how perfect, because next week we're going to have on Connor McCann, who is a recruiter. So James, would love to have you back to take the next steps there. And I just want to thank everybody for joining in today and sharing your journey, sharing what you're working on with us. And it's a big service to everybody who is viewing in, to be able to relate to you and what your challenges are, and then be able to apply what you're learning here to themselves. So I really appreciate everybody who jumped on screen today and shared. Many blessings, and
Yes.
we will see you next week.
Awesome.
Thank you all. Thank you all
Thank
for
you.
participating.
Thank
We'll see
you,
Thank
GD.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.